A struggle for the future of pro golf is being waged in the media, in courtrooms, and even on the golf course. But could the day come when the two sides agree to coexist? Well, one of golf's most influential players has something to say about that. On the bad blood between the PGA Tour and LIV Golf, you're sure to always find Tiger Woods backing the PGA Tour. Of course, he wouldn't do otherwise. He has continued to reprimand players who, according to him, betrayed the tour that made them what they are. However, the 82-time winner on the PGA Tour wasn't out for the players who switched allegiances. This time, he weighed into the possibility of the Rebel League Series and the PGA Tour collaborating. He maintained that for both leagues to coexist, LIV Chief Executive Greg Norman will have to go. So it begs the question, is Greg Norman the reason both parties have refused to cooperate? Can LIV afford to do away with its talisman? Well, there's only one way to find out. Since the start of the PGA LIV row, the spotlight has been more on the players who jumped ship and the ones who called them out for going back on their words. And it's understandable because, at some point, some players criticized the Saudi-backed Rebel League only to join a few weeks later, thereby causing unnecessary controversy. But this time, LIV Chief Executive Greg Norman is in the eye of the storm. And someone, not just anyone, but one of golf's most influential players, Tiger Woods, believes that he's the reason both parties can't coexist. Although Greg Norman, also known as the Shark, is the brainchild of LIV Golf, recently it appears his sacrifice may not suffice to keep him in office. Greg Norman has got to leave. At the Hero World Challenge in the Bahamas, where Tiger was a host but didn't participate, he spoke to the media aiming squarely at the coexistence of the PGA Tour and LIV Golf. When asked what needed to be done for the PGA Tour and LIV Golf to coexist, Woods didn't speculate when he called for the head of the chief executive of LIV Golf. Without mincing words, Woods said Greg Norman has got to leave in order for both sides to have an amicable relationship. First of all, Greg has got to go, said Woods, and then any legal action brought against us and any countersuit we brought against them would also need to be put on hold. So then we can talk. We can all talk freely. In other words, if the two sides must have a roundtable discussion with the intention of coming to a compromise, the Shark has to go. Woods was also asked whether he thinks both organizations can coexist, and based on his response, that might not happen anytime soon. Woods said, "Not right now. Not with their leadership and definitely not with Greg there. With his animosity towards the tour, I don't see that happening." Woods restated a claim made by Rory Mclroy at the DP World Tour Championship just 2 weeks prior, according to which Norman's behavior as the CEO of LIV Golf has made it impossible for the two parties to agree. Rory called on Greg to leave his role at the Rebel League to get an adult into the room to help put an end to the stalemate in the dispute between both tours. Rory said, "I think Greg needs to exit stage left. He's made his mark, but now is the right time to say, look, you've got this thing off the ground, but no one is going to talk unless there's an adult in the room that can actually try to mend fences." So Rory does acknowledge that Norman got the tour off the ground, but now is the time for someone more capable, and like he said, an adult in the room. So in this context, he was probably saying the Rebel League needed someone more matured. Of course, it's his opinion, but considering the sacrifices Greg has made and the criticism he's endured, maybe the Australian pro golfer doesn't deserve to be booted out. But then again, it's not up to us to decide what happens. With that sorted out, ensure to subscribe to our channel for more exciting golf content. The entire controversy begs the question, could Norman be the reason both parties have refused to cooperate? You see, the problem didn't start after the launch of the Golf Series. The Cold War between both sides started when Norman began luring away several high-profile PGA Tour golfers with mouth-watering deals. And that's not all. The league also has a flexible calendar, one that allows pro golfers to have enough family time. So when Norman spearheads offers golfers can't say no to, he just has to be hated. However, Norman remains confident about the future of LIV Golf and hopes there's still a possibility that various golf entities, including the PGA Tour, would coexist. But how realistic is his realistic conviction? Because Norman claims to have invited the PGA Tour to a roundtable discussion which they vehemently turned down. While speaking to reporters in a conference call in November, Norman said he was disappointed with the vitriol and that he believes quite a number of LIV golfers would still be interested in competing in PGA or DP World Tour events. The World Golf Hall of Famer and two-time major championship winner said he'd reached out to Jay Monahan, the PGA Tour commissioner, who declined a meeting with LIV Golf. "The ball is in their court now," said Norman. "We've tried on many fronts, many angles. This vitriol and ill will are very disappointing. I can tell you with my hand on my heart that all of the PGA and DP World Tour players who play with LIV Golf want to be able to play on the PGA Tour. But now, some are saying no, which wasn't so in the beginning, when they all wanted to go back." He continued, "We did not create the angst. The PGA Tour did. Why does competition create heartburn? Why the hatred and bad blood? Yeah, PGA Tour, why the bad blood?" That's obviously a rhetorical question because you can't snatch my players and still expect us to relate on a diplomatic level. But when Norman had had enough, he ended efforts to negotiate a truce with the PGA Tour. Norman said, "We tried hard, and I know how much I did personally for the past few years. When it was obvious we would never hear from them, we decided to go," Norman added. "To be honest with you, we have no interest in sitting down with them because our product is working." Is the PGA Tour willing to come to a peaceful agreement? If you think there's a possibility of both tours working things out, then you probably haven't been following up on the PGA LIV controversy. According to Jay Monahan, the PGA Tour commissioner, there is little prospect of the tours coexisting. Instead, the PGA Tour strengthened its ties with the DP World Tour. Monahan, who expressed happiness with the direction his tour is heading, said there's little to no possibility of finding common ground with LIV. "I really don't see it happening," Monahan told the Golf Channel. "If you take a look at where we are, think about the words and actions. We're currently in a lawsuit. So having conversations and coming together, to me, that card is off the table. It's been like that for a long period of time." You can tell that Jay Monahan is furious and won't even give LIV a chance. LIV players won't find a lasting legacy. And as if Woods hadn't said enough, he called out LIV players who left the PGA Tour saying, although they might amass cash, they'll find it difficult to find a lasting legacy. He said LIV wants world ranking points and be a validated tour, and they're buying up tours around the globe. He continued, "I have no idea what their end game is. Maybe it's just being an official member of the golf ecosystem. No one knows their intended goal. They spent probably $2 billion this year and might spend $4 or $5 billion next year. It's just an endless pit of money, but that doesn't create legacies either." The 46-year-old took another dig at the tour. You want to compare yourself to Snead? You want to compare yourself to Nicklaus? You want to compare yourself to Hogan? You can do it on this tour, but you can't do it over there. When Woods began sounding like this, speculation had it that there was a hostile relationship between both pro golfers. So does Woods have a personal conflict with Norman? Tiger Woods and Greg Norman have a long history together. Their first encounter was when Tiger was 15 and the duo played golf at Bay Hill, Florida. Also, Greg is said to have impacted Tiger's decision to train with the legendary Butch Harmon. In 1995 and 96, they played practice rounds at the Masters together. The two sportsmen, who were 21 years apart, had in many ways developed a bond. But by the second part of 96, whatever bond was there disappeared. Woods scheduled the Norman Shark Shootout on his playing schedule for September that year. Still, representatives for the competition promptly replied that Woods was yet to receive an invitation. So when a formal offer was extended, Tiger declined it in favor of competing the following week in the Australian Open, a tournament where Norman contested and said to the press, "We play challenging courses here." However, a decade later, the former world number one said he feels sorry for Tiger's position as a failed idol, but believes the American's travails proved that even the best players have their weaknesses exposed. Now over to you. What do you think about Woods' position on the PGA LIV crisis? Can LIV afford to do away with the shark? For more intriguing golf content, click this video showing on your screen right now.